Hey guys, welcome to Marketing Cheat Guides. Today I have on the show Nathan Hirsch. He's the entrepreneur who founded FreeUp Marketplace. He's recently sold that to the Hoff, has already started his next venture, which is Outsource School, which you can find at outsourceschool.com. I asked him to join us here today on the show and talk about his entrepreneurial journey. So Nathan, why don't you tell us a little bit about the FreeUp Marketplace and what you built there, and then we'll transition into Outsource School and what you're working on today.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me. So I was a longtime Amazon seller. I started selling out of my college dorm room, and that business grew fast. I got in at a good time, and I quickly realized I had to start hiring people. So I turned to my college friends, and that didn't work out too well. People were much more focused on school and partying than they were at growing my business. And no 30-year-old in the real world wanted to work for a 20-year-old entrepreneur. So I kind of got thrown into the remote hiring world. I used the Upworks, the Fivers to get talent that I needed to grow my business. And I really just hated the process. I needed something faster, something better. And I kept looking. And when I couldn't find it, I built it myself. So I really built FreeUp to be what I wanted to exist, to make hires for my own business. So with FreeUp, we get thousands of applicants every week, virtual assistants, freelancers, agencies from all around the world. Top 1% get in, make them available to people quickly whenever they need them. On the back end, 24/7 support in case people have even the smallest issue, and a no turnover guarantee. If someone quits on you for any reason, we cover replacement costs and get them a new person right away. I keep saying we, but FreeUp, the pre-vetting, the speed, the customer service, the protection is what they're all about. I still love FreeUp. I still recommend using FreeUp. I personally now hire using FreeUp for my new business, Outsource School. I negotiated a lifetime discount, and I truly believe in the company, and I'm really excited to see how it grows and expands.
Awesome. So you started, you're a product of the product. You figured that you needed it, so you created it, the true entrepreneur. And so why don't you tell us just a little bit about some of the earlier challenges when you started to get into it and how you overcame those challenges. I think the story and the frame will be valuable to the audience to hear some of the challenges when you start up a successful business as you have.
Yeah, so when we launched FreeUp, we started it with $5,000. We spent $4,500 of that on our software, making a minimum viable product. I mean, this software was crummy. People would log in, they could log out, they could see the freelancer in their account, the freelancer could start time, end time, and that was really it. There were no other features. The billing was separate. We would manually charge people's credit cards on Stripe. When people wanted to request a freelancer or a new virtual assistant, whatever it was, they would email me, Skype me, call me, and we would keep track of it in a Google Doc. That wasn't even part of the software yet. There was no affiliate program in there. It really very, very basic. But we got it to market as fast as we possibly could. And we had a group of freelancers, a Rolodex of freelancers that we could really rely on from our Amazon business. So we kind of had a core there, and people liked it because they could say, hey, Nate, I need a graphic designer. And I'd say, boom, here you go. And within an hour, they'd be started with that graphic designer. So people love the concept. They love the freelancers. If they had issues, and just like any other startup, there were mistakes and issues early on, some inside or outside our control. And we would just fix it, and we would just make it right and make sure the person was taken care of. So from there, people loved the freelancers. They loved the customer service. They hated our software. They did not want any part of it. So we listened to feedback. We asked what people wanted from the freelancer side in terms of skill set, in terms of what they cared about in a hire. We kind of continue to tweak and build on our customer service, but we also gathered what we needed to grow the business in terms of software, but also the features that people wanted in terms of software. People wanted a way to quickly share their affiliate link. They wanted billing to be more secure and inside the portal. So we started to create these different tasks that we had to do and reinvest profits of the business to get done what the market actually wanted. We didn't assume that we knew what people wanted. We actually went out there and talked to our clients and wrote everything down. And just because we took feedback doesn't mean that we could implement everything instantly, but it gave us a blueprint on what to build going forward that people actually wanted. So that was kind of the beginning, just getting it off the ground, listening to feedback, and reinvesting back into the business to go towards what the market actually wants.
Interesting. Okay, so when I think about something like a marketplace like this, it seems like you have two marketing challenges. One is to get the freelancers, which it sounded like you were able to leverage because of your previous experience with Amazon and how you had created almost the product for yourself. How did you start to get companies and other people looking for freelancers to find the platform, because it's a bit of a network effect. You need the freelancers and you need the people paying the freelancers in order for it to grow. So how did you tackle that marketing challenge?
Yeah, so it's really the same on both sides. So we would listen to feedback and try to build a platform for what they wanted. So what the clients wanted, but also what the freelancer wanted, because they could go to any Upwork, Fiverr. There's a ton of places out there. We want to know why they don't like those places so we can make ours better. Then we create a referral program on both sides. So any client that you refer, you get 50 cents for every hour that you bill to them forever. Any freelancer that you refer, you make money for every hour that they bill forever. So you get people that know that you're listening to them, that you're hearing them, that you're building a platform for them. They start referring other people. And that was very humbling, because people, all of a sudden I get people signing up saying, oh, I was at a conference in China and someone told me about FreeUp. And that was cool. Like, you spread the word. I've never even been to China and people are talking about me there. So that was the first part. Second part was podcasts. We went on e-commerce podcasts and marketing podcasts. We went on freelancing podcasts. So getting in front of thousands of people at once, sharing your message and being genuine and authentic was big. And then partnerships. So we partnered with VA and freelancer coaches. We partnered with e-commerce and marketing influencers and different software companies that had the same audience that we had, but didn't have the exact same product. We weren't competitors. So we would put their content in front of our audience. We would put our content in front of theirs and drive traffic each way. And that was good for SEO and backlinks as well. So yes, eventually we ran retargeting ads, and we were big on social media, and we launched our own content, our own podcast. But off the ground for the first 2 years, we really only did the referral program, the influencers, the podcast, and the content swaps.
Interesting. Cool. And so the secondary thing that comes to my mind is, what was your experience in terms of building a software? Obviously, a huge part of what you were investing in was the platform and building the platform. Did you have any experience previous? Did you use freelancers? How did you tackle that problem? Because I know a lot of people, when they start to think about building software, it's a daunting task, especially if you don't have a background in it. So how did you deal with that challenge?
Yeah, great question. So I'm not a developer, and I've never coded anything before. And we work with some developers in our Amazon business. We did a terrible job. I mean, business people working with developers, it's a big learning curve. I mean, they're talking in terms of development, you're talking in terms of business. Neither of you really understand the other person. There's a big communication gap. So we learned a little bit from the Amazon business, so we were a little bit more prepared. But we really wanted to practice what we preach. We only hired freelancers from FreeUp to grow FreeUp. So the developers that we got to build our software, we actually got on the FreeUp platform. So there's almost two parts of it. You have the WordPress site, which is what everyone goes to if you go to freeup.com. Then you have the time clock, which is built in Node. So we needed WordPress developers and we needed the Node developers. Now, one of the best things that we did in FreeUp around year 2, I tend to be pretty impatient. Me working with developers doesn't work that well. My business partner, a lot more patient, a lot better at communication, a lot more organized, a lot more technical. He understands WordPress and all that stuff. So we got me as far away from the developers as possible. He would run and manage that team. And I could give them feedback. I could give them ideas. I was the one talking to a lot of the clients, going on the podcast, more of the face, and I knew what people wanted. So we would communicate, and it would be his job to manage it and really be in charge of the development team. So I guess the biggest lesson in there is to know your strengths, your weaknesses, and kind of divide and conquer. Just because you're an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you need to know and be able to manage and handle every little thing, but you do need to be able to surround yourself with people that have the opposite skill sets, although they should have the same values and beliefs as you did. So, I mean, it was a learning curve. It took us a few years to really get it organized. We learned that you need a quality assurance person too. So we hired a QA person from the Philippines who, for 40 hours a week, all they were doing was running through our software, trying to find bugs, trying to make sure that issues got handled. But yeah, that was kind of how we did it.
Awesome. So as you develop product market fit, so at some point, you were in startup mode, you figured out you had something that was going. What were some of the challenges as you started to scale up? Because over time, it became a much larger organization, presumably, and there are challenges that come with hyper growth. And so I'm curious as to what some of those challenges were and how you overcame them.
Yeah. So one of the challenges was how to manage my time. So I kind of became the face of FreeUp. There was a week in 2019 where I did 25 podcasts in 1 week. So 5 podcasts a day for 5 days. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty brutal. That was not sustainable. So figuring out who you actually have to say no to was part of it. Figuring out how to balance and organize my time and what projects you can do, because there's so much potential there. I mean, I could spend all my time going after influencers. I could spend all my time on podcasts. We have our own podcast. We have our own content. So figuring out how to break that down and what's actually driving results. The other challenge that we had was, as a remote company, and this is something that I'm really excited that the Hoth who bought FreeUp is going to be able to do a lot better, going to conferences. If I want to go to a conference, I have to be the one that goes to the conference. There's no one else to send. We're a remote company. Yes, I could send Connor, but he's a technical guy. If he goes to the conference, then that part of the business isn't growing, isn't building. So I can't go to a conference every single week like you and I were talking about before you hit record and still grow the business. So again, figuring out where my time, where my effort was, and growing a business from 0 to $1 million, from 1 to 5 million, from 5 to 12 million. All three are very, very different. And that's one of the reasons we ended up selling. Connor and I have never grown a business from 10 million to 50 million before. We have all these clients, all these freelancers, all these virtual assistants depending on us to grow this business. And all of a sudden we're going to be experimenting and trying to figure it out as we go to get to that level. Definitely an option. Maybe we could have done it, but we were fortunate enough to have a company, one of our clients, reach out to us who has that experience, who's grown businesses that big, who had the same values, the same beliefs in treating people. And we thought they were much better equipped to grow the business and have success doing it. So just a lot of different things going on as you get bigger.
Interesting. Okay. So that's really was one of the questions, is what made the decision happen that you wanted to exit. I myself have sold 3 businesses and had my own reasons for each one. Definitely I enjoy that startup process. And like you're saying, there's different skill sets required to manage. Once you hit a certain point, it becomes a larger organization, perhaps less entrepreneurial. Is that one of the drivers that you guys kind of looked at in terms of deciding you wanted to exit at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of factors. We didn't go into this year being like, we need to get rid of FreeUp. We need to sell FreeUp. That wasn't the intention. I mean, we always said from the beginning that, I mean, there's different ways to run a business to the end, right? You're either go out of business, you exit it, you sell it, you continue to run it. And then if you're continuing to run it, are you going all in, or are you turning into more of like a lifestyle business? So these are all, or you could do the investing funding route. But me personally, that's not something I ever want to do. It almost becomes a job where you're working for the investors, and that's just not my personality. So there are different options. And we always said that if someone was really interested in buying FreeUp, we would hear them out, but we also wanted to make sure that outside of the money, that they were a really good fit. And when the Hoth did reach out to us, we did as much due diligence on them as they did on us. Every time they were firing over questions to us, we were firing questions right back. And we wanted to know how they treat people in their office. Like, what are their goals? What are their visions for FreeUp? What changes are they going to make? What companies have they had success and failures with? What did they learn from them? All the stuff that they're asking us in terms of the financials and all that, we're going right back at them. So we really like them. I mean, I look up to Mark and David who run the Hoth. They're entrepreneurs that I want to be when I'm 40, 45, and they know what they're doing. They treat people well. They have the same values, the same beliefs. And so I wanted to make sure that clients and freelancers and partners were taken care of. I also wanted to make sure that our internal team was taken care of. We have a group of 35 VAs in the Philippines that put their heart and soul into FreeUp for 4 years. The last thing I wanted to do is sell it to a company that's just going to fire all of them and replace them and put them in a bad position. So we were able to take hundreds of thousands of dollars from the sale, give it to them to hopefully set them up for future security, and then also secure their jobs going forward. So they're all keeping their jobs and hopefully have an even better opportunity to grow with a company that's going to go much bigger, which will lead to even more stability for them. So we look for all those factors. In terms of like why we sell it, why we sold it, I kind of mentioned the whole, hey, we're entering an uncharted territory now. So we have to make the decision whether we're going to do it or whether we put someone else in there. I think me being the face of FreeUp at some point, the structure was going to have to change, right? We were going to have to hire some full-time US people, someone else to be the name, the face of brand, or to go on podcasts. And honestly, that's not something that I necessarily wanted to do. I mean, I like the remote hiring. I like not having any US employees. I like being able to work from home and having that flexibility. but it's not necessarily fair to all these clients and freelancers who are depending on FreeUp for me all of a sudden to just decide, okay, I'm turning this into a lifestyle business. I didn't think that was necessarily fair for them. So lots of different factors there. But yeah, I think that answered your question.
Absolutely. So if we travel back in time to when you first started FreeUp, what are some of the learnings or advice that you would give to a younger version of yourself? So if you could look back, what was it, 4 years ago you started it?
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, good question. A lot on quality assurance and getting that QA person in place, like I mentioned. I wish we had done that earlier. Having more of I guess putting out content. I mean, I would have started my podcast earlier. I see a lot of benefits in that, not just of having content out there, but building relationships and working with influencers. I think I learned a lot about just social media and marketing. That's something that I kind of entered for the first time. I didn't have to do that for my Amazon business. And I always found it funny when I would show up at conferences and people would be like, oh my God, you're so good at marketing. Like, how'd you become such a good marketer? And I'm thinking in my head, like, I've never done marketing before. Like, this is me throwing stuff against the wall and like seeing what's working. So I just have a much better idea of what works and what doesn't work and building relationships. And I think I went into FreeUp in hardcore pitch mode, right? I would cold call people, and I was pretty good at it. I would get people to sign up, and all it was about was like, I guess not closing the deal because FreeUp wasn't selling packages, but getting people to use FreeUp, where towards the end, it was just relationships. I would set up networking calls just to meet people, like awesome people like you, entrepreneurs that know a lot more than I do and have had a lot more success than I have. And just learn from them. And sometimes it leads to nothing. Sometimes it leads to a great relationship. Sometimes it leads to referrals. Sometimes it leads to them being a client. Sometimes it leads to you being a client of them. You never know how it's going to go. But I think I kind of changed my approach to aggressive, all-out salesperson to, okay, let's actually build relationships and become a part of this awesome internet entrepreneurial community.
Okay. So now that we have that backstory, let's transition to Outsource School so we can start to think about what it is you're going to be working on as you move forward. So I assume you learned a ton in terms of VAs, hiring, training, and kind of leveraging their particular skills. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your vision for what OutsourceSchool.com is going to be focused on and where you kind of see it going so that people can kind of see what you're working towards?
Yeah, so for years, people have been asking me to launch a course on using virtual assistants. Hasn't been my top priority, way more focused on growing FreeUp. And now that I feel like FreeUp is in a great position with the Hoth, where we're finishing up the transition here over the next 2 weeks, I feel like they don't even need me. We've done a huge knowledge dump and they're taking that over. I want to share how we did it because that's really the only thing I can teach. We built a team of 35 awesome full-time VAs with team leaders, assistant team leaders, where I could leave the business for 2 weeks and maybe the business wouldn't grow as much, but it would run completely without me. And people could handle issues without me being involved. They could run meetings without me. And that didn't just happen by accident. I just wake up and hire 40 people and they got to work. It took careful planning and hiring the right people. So our first course is going to be our IOTA method, which is interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing virtual assistants, and walk someone through exactly how we do it. This is how we interview people. These are the questions we ask, what we look for. This is how we onboard them to set expectations and make sure we don't run into issues later. This is how we manage them after the fact to motivate them, because if we're investing our time and money into someone, we want them to be with the company for years to come. We don't want them to quit in a month and have to start that process over again. So we're going to start off with that course and hopefully help a lot of people get feedback and see what else would help people, and hopefully turn Outsource School into an education platform that people can go to. Hey, this is how you hire a VA for social media. This is how you hire a VA for email marketing, whether it's someone doing it for the first time or someone who's had a lot of turnover and can't get anyone to stick around. So that's really our focus, is trying to bring education and teach people the power of using virtual assistants, because I give all my VAs all the credit in the world. Without them, we couldn't have grown or sold FreeUp, and other people have to realize the power that virtual assistants can have in growing your business.
So in terms of the target market you're focusing on, do you have a specific ideal target market that you think could benefit from this in terms of either Amazon sellers or are you just thinking traditional businesses that currently are, I don't want to say blind to the whole concept of virtual assistants, but huge marketplace and opportunity for you guys?
Yeah, I think we haven't defined our perfect customer avatar yet, although it's on the to-do list. I'm very, I don't want to say well-known. I'm very I'm in the inner workings of the Amazon space, in the marketing space, in the e-commerce space. So probably a good place to start, but I think targeting more online entrepreneurs in general. I'm not sure if the sushi restaurant down the street is the best person to teach how to use VAs. Could be wrong. But I think internet entrepreneurs is who we think we can benefit the most.
Fantastic. And when do you see the first course being launched?
Hopefully we're 30 to 60 days out. I mean, we're wrapping up the outline this week. Next week, we'll create different activities in PowerPoint, start filming afterwards. And I don't think my lifestyle has changed a little bit since we grew Free Up. I don't think we're going 14-hour days anymore, but we are chipping away and moving at a good pace and making sure that when we do launch this thing, this is quality. I mean, we don't want some money-making course out there that people don't get value on. I mean, if people buy our course and they're not happy with it, we're going to refund them. We're going to move on to bigger and better things. But we want to spend a lot of make sure that we don't rush it, that we have a quality product that actually helps people. And that's what's most important to us. And that takes 90 days, 120 days, or 30 days. That's how long it's going to take.
Awesome. So that leads me to my next question. You're a successful entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. And so I'm really curious as to what some of your rituals may be, whether that's a morning ritual. How do you get productivity from yourself? Have you developed anything that really helps you in terms of productivity?
So two things. One, I wake up early. I'm up by 6:37 every day. First 2 hours of every day is when I'm most productive. Whatever the most important thing that I need to get done that day is, that's what I'm doing right when I wake up. And at 4:45 every day, I go to the gym. Hard, intense 1 hour workout, no computer, no phone. I am getting as far away from businesses and technology as possible. Helps me reset my mind, take care of my body, and come back and rest and hang out with my fiance, and next day kind of repeat from there. So my days are always different. I have different podcasts and events and stuff like that. But the morning is when I focus on projects, and the afternoon is when I get away from business and refresh my mind.
Fantastic. Some of our audience are newer in the journey in terms of entrepreneurialism. I'm wondering if you could give, 2 or 3 pieces of advice you'd give to kind of the people that are just starting their journey that you've learned in your time so far.
Yeah, my biggest thing, and I can only say that this kind of works for me, I tend to not follow like the gurus and the people that are teaching stuff in masses. Learning from them is great. I read a lot of books. I watch YouTube videos, but I'm trying to figure out how I can do it differently. I'm trying to throw stuff against the wall and see what's working, because they might have something great that I never even thought of, but I'm not going to follow them to the T. I'm going to try to tweak it and make it my own and figure out what works for my business and try to read and understand my market. So I think we kind of live in this information era, and we want people to do the same thing with Outsource School. If you take one of my courses, that doesn't mean that you have to follow step A through Z to get that perfect VA, but you should take what we have and build it and make it your own. And I feel like that doesn't get said enough, where it's not always follow this person's exact steps and then you become successful. It's, hey, learn from them, learn what not to do, because that saves you a lot of time, and then tweak it and make it your own.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today on the show. Where can I send people if they're interested in learning more or joining your list or following your story? Where should we send them?
Yeah, go to outsourceschool.com. You can join our wait list there. We have a newsletter that comes out with weekly tips and updates. You can find me on social media, Nathan Hirsch, pretty easy to contact. Real Nate Hirsch on Instagram, on Twitter. And thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like this interview or you have any questions, feel free to drop the comments below. Give it a thumbs up so we can push it out on the YouTube audience, and we'll see you in the next episode.